Ramattra sucks, like he is a terrible tank, and today we're going to talk about why. Now, I watched a ton of content creators from top 500s, Grandmasters, Diamonds, a ton of people, Doomfist tank mains in general, support mains. I took as much opinions as possible. Now, the footage itself is from Stylosa. He's been pretty cool when I use his footage. Bless his soul, he is an amazing, the best Overwatch creator. So link down below for that. But on top of it, every single video I watched from another content creator will also be down there. Any video that helped me make this video, even just in thought, will be sourced because Blizzard, for some reason, won't invite me. Ramattra is pretty much useless. Okay, so basically I spent the afternoon, like most of you most likely, watching a bunch of content creators drop their take on Ramattra, as well as more niche creators like a Doomfist top 500 main who got to play Doomfist with the new patches because Doomfist did get buffed, but they didn't give us the numbers. They didn't reveal them. Maybe it's part of their embargo, or maybe they don't know the numbers. But for example, Doomfist is buffed while everyone's hating on Ramattra saying he's super weak. This is going to shift the meta quite radically, and I can't wait to get my hands on the season 2 tomorrow. My thoughts based off other people's thoughts as well as watching this gameplay that you're watching, which is the reason I wanted to use it in the background, because I listened to Stylosa's take, I listened to all his opinions, and I watched the gameplay while doing so. I paid close attention to everything. Of course, it's on the new Shambali map. The conclusion here is that he's overall weak because he's underwhelming on a numeric standpoint. For example, when he is shooting his little beams, headshots may be doing a lot of damage, but body shots do very little damage, and it's extremely hard to track everyone's little heads while they're moving around, meaning that the leeway or the skill gap to actually hit a ton of headshots with his primary fire is very difficult. For example, that's one reason he's weaker than expected. And this carries forward. For example, he's a very slow moving tank with no movement abilities. This one is not too numeric, but it's probably one of the only ones that it wasn't about tuning his kit and more so just a fundamental weakness that makes a ton of sense in my opinion. However, on the flip side, for example, the gravity ability that's supposed to pull people down, well, it's not really working as crazily intended as what we thought would happen. So for example, a Reinhardt will charge straight through it, no problem. Or on top of that, a Mercy won't really get pulled down unless she's already really close to it. The vertical height number is so weak. This could be tuned though, right? They could, for example, make his primary fire do more damage. They could increase the height so Mercies get pulled down more aggressively, and they could maybe change some interactions. As I can also tell, let's say Echo wants to fly away, that burst of flight actually allows her to escape the gravity ability, making it very underwhelming. That Vortex is way more underwhelming than what we predicted. However, it doesn't really end, man. I kind of feel bad because I thought this guy was going to be stacked, but the numbers are stacked against him. For example, the shield that comes up, you can see it just popped up right now in the gameplay. Oh, it's gone. Oh no. Because while it has 1000 HP and has great placement mechanics, it actually only lasts 5 seconds. 5 seconds, yeah, that's it. That's actually extraordinarily short and makes him quite the weak tank in terms of shield. That's the big problem. And then, for example, he crosses his arms, and that's how he shields himself in his second mode. What I could tell is that it does reduce damage like crazy, but since you can't do anything else while shielding, and it's not even really a shield, it overall feels extraordinarily weak. He's basically not good at doing specific things. He's more sparingly okay at doing a ton of things. For example, if you want to poke, you would just want to play Sigma. If you want to shield and bash, Reinhardt is still better statistically and numerically than he is. And it kind of makes this whole tempo tank marketing fall through quite aggressively. Because as, who was it? As Flats puts it, he's not tempoing anything. He's too weak to tempo what he's supposed to be tempoing. He's not controlling the tempo of anything. And I honestly agree after watching gameplay. His ultimate also has some hard counters that some people did not expect. For example, I was watching an interaction video, and if everyone else on the team runs away and Zarya decides to tank and she bubbles herself twice, it's long enough to completely cancel out the ultimate's quote-unquote infinite duration. It stops damage long enough with a back-to-back bubble. Or Zarya's bubble, for example, protects her from the short-range punches that come out of Ramattra. Even though it's supposed to go through shields, Zarya, for example, is already being a great counter. They also tested a ton of Roadhog, and most of the pro players or high-ranking players all agree that Roadhog is going to mess up Ramattra, and we know that he's quite prominent right now in the high ranks. He's already dominating the high ranks, and Ramatra's not about to stand in his way. Furthermore, it doesn't really end because apparently his punches don't come out nearly as far as people predicted. This, stacked with the fact that he's extremely slow, makes him overall weak, and a lot of people are mentioning that a Lucio or a Kiriko ult is going to be crucial in even having a chance to make him viable, which is a little bit unfortunate unfortunate because while Overwatch is a team game, the minute you have to rely on specific team comps just to make a tank viable, you're off to quite a poor start, which I guess does lead the question, is it better or worse that Ramattra is going to come out of the tank, or I guess out of the gates, swinging pretty weak? And technically net overall, it's better to have someone who's weak that they then buff versus someone that's too oppressive and ruins the game, especially since he's behind a paywall. So I'm going to say the net result of him being weaker than expected is a good one for most Overwatch players, in my opinion. Now, what I would say is my biggest concern with Ramattra is when you stack a kit this heavily, like the truth is the reason I was calling him strong, or even Stylosa thought he was going to be completely broken as well, like I'm not alone on this, is because one, his ultimate did sound extremely oppressive, but it simply does not have the numbers to back it up. It ends pretty quickly if they stay away, and it does too little damage while the team fight is happening, right? If they have a Lucio healing them, you know, anyone's playing somewhat competent, you aren't as oppressive as what we originally thought Ramattra to be. That's the first thing. And second thing is that his kit is by definition overstacked, right? By definition of how many abilities he carries. So Blizzard is going to have an extremely difficult job now of trying to bring him up to stack. If he is truly super weak, especially in low ranks, we do have to see, will he be a pub stomper or not? We still got some stuff to test, but will he be extremely weak or strong across the ranks? And if he is extremely weak, how do we bump him up without making him broken? Because he has so many abilities. And here's my theory. I don't know yet. My theory is that this whole tempo tank thing won't work out, and instead he's going to be leaned into one side or the other. Maybe they keep his staff wielding version quite weak, light poke, play from far, but you're never going to be that dominant. If you want to play that way completely, play Sigma instead, but then maybe buff up a second form where he is extremely deadly when you want to get into the front lines, and just completely focus on that, because they can't universally buff him, because if they universally buff him, he's going to become too stacked. Like he has the most abilities of any Overwatch hero. That much is a fact. So Blizzard's obviously going to have to be extraordinarily careful. Now, I want to refer back to Flats again, because I found his opinion the most, like, he talks very calmly, so it's funny, but it's kind of the most base take, or the most aggressive take, because he is no longer very excited to play Ramattra. As he said himself, in high rank, if I actually want to play for the rank or play competitively, I wouldn't be picking Ramattra. Like, he won't be able to play Ramattra at all, because he thinks, I mean, he didn't really say it this way, but the way he approached his opinion made it feel like anyone picking Ramattra at high rank is going to be throwing, like a Doomfist throw pick. Like, I'm not sure if that was the intent, but that is how it sounds. And if it's truly that bad, if these players who played in customs, who played against each other's, really think he's that bad, that's a little bit of a yikes. I am yet to hear one single opinion that doesn't say he's weak. Not a single one. It's insane. It's insane. I was just going through video after video after video, like kind of just scrubbing through them. Like, man, are they going to say anything good about him? Like, is it really this bad? And luckily, it did take this footage from Stylosa at the end for me to see a full game to understand that, yeah, he looks overall quite weak, but with Overwatch, just viewing isn't enough. So let's see what happens when he drops tomorrow. Let me know what y'all think down below.